Question is in the name of Deputy McConalogue.
Thank you, Cahirla. Minister, this is to ask you the up-to-date position with regard to approval for a new primary school for St Mary's National School in Stranorlar in County Donegal, and also, Minister, if you will meet a delegation from the school to discuss progress towards a new school building, as well as issues with regard to inadequate existing accommodation and road safety concerns.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thanks, Deputy. As you're aware, a building project for the school referred to is currently being progressed within my department's architectural planning process. I understand that the school's design team and school authority are currently working on the Stage 2A report. A Stage 2A stakeholders meeting will be arranged when the Stage 2A report concerned is finalised. In the circumstances, I do not consider that convening a meeting as proposed would be beneficial at this time. As the Deputy will also be aware, the school in question is one of a number of schools which it was not possible to include in the 5-year construction programme. However, the school project is being progressed to the final planning stages so that it will be well placed for further progression in anticipation of further funds being available to the department.
Thank you very much, Deputy.
Thank you for your response, Minister. I'm disappointed that you're not agreeing to actually meet with the school directly to discuss the future of the building, Minister, and also to ensure that you are up to speed and can talk with them face to face as to the current facilities they have and the very real need they have for a new school building. The current building, Minister, unfortunately, about half of the classrooms consist of prefabs, and those which were permanent classrooms have been in place a long time, to the extent that the classrooms are so small, Minister, that the old school desks with the inkwells are still being used. So that will emphasise to you the importance and need for this school to actually have a new building agreed. Unfortunately, it was on the previous school building programme and under previous Minister Coughlin, during her time as Minister for Education, it was approved. But under Minister Quinn, he removed it. So I think on that basis, it's all the more important that you yourself, as Minister, would actually agree to meet with a delegation from the school. I know they've written to you specifically requesting that. I've previously placed a parliamentary question seeking that you would actually agree to do that, Minister. And I think they do deserve that, and I think it would also be, no doubt, very useful for yourself to actually meet with them. I know they're constructively engaging with officials in the department, and they're also constructively engaging with the design team, working on the site which has already been secured to develop it towards planning. But what's needed is it to go back in the school building programme so we know once it gets planning, the funding will be there. And Minister, that's why I believe it's important for you to meet with them face to face. And as I say, particularly because they have been removed from the list, it's all the more important that you would meet them and discuss the concerns and problems they are facing at the moment, with a view to actually trying to ensure that they are placed on the new school capital programme.
Deputy O'Brien.
On a wider point, Minister, I fully support and endorse what Deputy McConalogue is saying, and I think he gave a real example of some of the issues that people face out there in relation to parents and teachers, where a school which was previously on the programme is now no longer on the programme. Now, there are various reasons for that. It could be planning issues, it could be objections, it could be the length of time. But I've said this before, Minister, I think the idea of a 5-year planning programme needs to be looked at. We need to be developing 10 and 15-year programmes, so schools know that if they're not in a 5-year cycle, that they're in a 10-year cycle. And one of the biggest issues in relation to school building programmes is, and whether we like it or not, it's a reality out there, that a number of sites which have been identified, and it goes to planning stage, and then there are objections that come in, and that delays it, and sometimes it goes to on board Stranorlar, and these are issues which need to be dealt with, Minister. And I remember previously at a committee you said that the planning laws were being looked at to take into account we said for school buildings, that we were looking at ways of fast-tracking those proposals, obviously without compromising the actual planning system. But do you have any further updates on that, Minister?
Thank you very much. Minister.
Well, just specifically, first of all, on the Donegal School, I understand that the design team are finalising Stage 2, the Stage 2A report. So, I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to meet them until they have finalised that and given it back into the department. And then certainly there will be stakeholders meetings, and you know, but at this stage, I don't think there's any point in me meeting them, because the ball is in their court, if you like, in terms of coming back on the design. Just on the more general issue. I suppose, I mean, I was the opposition spokesperson for education in the past. I remember when Minister Dempsey was Minister, and there was a very long list of various stages where schools were, and they could spend years in the early stages, and they moved on up along. And I suppose it was felt that that actually was a bit less clear than what's in place at the moment, which is that you have a 5-year programme, you know whether you're in it or not, and schools have more certainty maybe in terms of how quickly they'll proceed. But we're working on the next 5-year programme, because it's due to start next year, and I suppose that's a context where we could have a discussion around, you know, whether we should give more information than what is in the 5-year programme. But obviously we can only commit in terms of the capital envelope, which we only get for 5 years. So I don't want to mislead schools either and put them into a list that doesn't really indicate that anything's going to happen. With regard to the planning issue, yeah, I mean, obviously Alan Kelly is now the Minister in that area, and I have engaged with him in relation to it, and you know, we want to keep the planning process obviously absolutely transparent, as it should be, and as you have said yourself, Deputy O'Brien, but I think there is a case for things like schools which are in the public interest to certainly be considered, that there wouldn't be any unnecessary delay, and those discussions are ongoing.
Thank you very much. Deputy, would you like to have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Cahirla. Minister, you referred to giving certainty to schools in relation to building plans. And unfortunately, the certainty that St Mary's National School Stranorlar has at the moment is that they're not on the current 5-year building programme, and that runs until 2017. And as you rightly pointed out, the 5-year programme until the end of next year, as you rightly pointed out, the 5-year programme after that, your department will be looking at the moment and over the next period of time. And that's why I feel it's important, Minister, that you would meet with them directly, particularly in light of the fact that they were on the previous programme but have been dropped off this one. I think they deserve that. And I know they have meetings with the officials, and that there will be the normal meetings taking place over the next period of time to progress things. I'm not asking you to get involved in the architectural process, Minister, or to get your pen out in relation to actually the plans, but I do think it's entirely appropriate that you, as Minister, would meet with them directly. The school are doing great work at the moment in terms of the facilities they have under Principal Fintan Keating and his staff, and indeed with the Board of Management. But there has been much disappointment, understandably, at the fact that they don't have that certainty at the moment, that once they get to the end of the planning process and it's approved, that the funding will be there. There are other schools, Minister, across the country which are much less developed in terms of their planning process and their design than this school. Yet this school isn't on the programme. And it's with that view that they would like to meet you, Minister, and particularly as well in view of the fact that because the school is placed on the main arterial route going from North Donegal to South Donegal, there are very real traffic safety concerns with students going to school in the morning. And I think it's important you hear that, because ultimately it will be yourself working with the department that puts that programme together, and I think in that context, Minister, I would ask you to revise your decision not to meet them at the moment and to actually meet the delegation from the school who have actually made that request to you. And I can assure you, Minister, working along with you, this is something I will continue to raise, because I believe this is a school which very much needs a new building, and it's one which has to be, Minister, at the top of the next building programme.
Thank you, Minister.
Well, just two things. I suppose just to reiterate that I don't think it's appropriate for me to meet them while we're still awaiting the design. So I'm sure you'll raise it again with me, Deputy McConalogue. Just in relation to the next school building programme, which is to start in 2016. We are working on it. I mean, if there are some schools that are ready to go, if you like, and if we get funding in advance of the allocation for the new 5-year programme. We will certainly consider the possibility of allowing schools to go, even if they're not in the 5-year building programme, if they're ready to go and if we have funding that is not required for schools that are in the active current programme. So just to say that we're not going to, if we have funding and we have schools ready to go and it's not taking money from those that are meant to be going in the current programme, then I don't see any reason why we shouldn't allow schools to go ahead, as I say, if we get any extra funding.